Have a listen to this. Have a listen to this.
Interest rates are higher. I know people don't like that, but you should be welcoming a stronger economy.
Maybe a deal has a point about the machinery of capitalism being oiled with the blood of the worker.
The United States is a country that has always paid all of its bills.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Don't let the bastards get you.
Hello and welcome to Comedian versus Economist. We demystify the world of money and help you get a handle on the bigger picture. My name's Adam and we're joined as always by my little older brother and real life economist, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Yeah, g'day, Adam. How you going?
Doing really well, thanks. Had some nice feedback coming in for your poetry that you shared at the end of the show last week, Thomas. Steffi wrote in and said it was just what she needed today, and wanted to thank you for sharing your interpretations and impressions.
Thanks, Steffi.
Along with the poem. So, keep the feedback coming in, cve@equitymates.com. And if you'd like to hear more of Thomas's poetry, you can head to www.libraryof.love in your internet browser, and you'll find everything that Thomas has got there just in time for Christmas. But Thomas, massive show coming up as always. We're going to be looking at the rise of klepto bros as more young people are stealing. Queensland have doubled their first homeowner grant, making it easier to buy your first two homes. And some Toyota ads have been banned in the UK for being unrealistic after showing SUVs actually driving off-road. But first, Thomas, the RBA Governor Michelle Bullock has fired shots at the government. What's the scoop?
Yeah, she came out last week, took a bit of a hawkish tilt. So hawkish being a bit more aggressive with respect to rate hikes. But saying the key point is she wanted to stress that inflation is now a homegrown problem. To distinguish it from sort of like global...
That's good. We've stopped importing it. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, that's right. Put up some trade tariffs.
I know production was down in Australia. I'm not sure that starting to produce our own inflation was the answer.
Yeah. You just got to support the local inflation industry.
Making some small batch inflation.
Right. But so it's home. So as opposed to like global supply shocks, which was so the big story with out of COVID was would all these global supply chain disruptions translate into entrenched domestic inflation? And that's what Bullock was saying is that, it's now homegrown and demand driven, and that's going to make it harder to get inflation back to target.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And is she right?
I think so. I mean, that's what the data is saying. I mean, it's interesting that the Albanese government's still trying to sell it as a global thing. Albo had a great quote saying, but of course, inflation is a global phenomenon. Last night, I attended a meeting of the G20 leaders, which began at 11 p.m. Australian time and went through to 2 a.m. So a bit of a flex.
Yeah. I'm burning the midnight oil just while you guys are all sleeping. I am flat out here running the country. Not sure if you know. I used to work with a guy like that, man. He'd do like 90-hour weeks. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, Albo needs to work smarter, not harder.
AI, Albo, AI. You'd have someone sit in that meeting for you, summarize it, give you the highlights in the morning.
But so he's up to 2 a.m. He's saying a consistent message from global leaders there was dealing with inflation being a global issue that the world is tackling. So, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be right. Yeah, Michelle Bullock's pointing out that hairdressers and dentists, dining out, sporting and other recreational activities, the prices of all these are rising strongly. So we've now got services inflation. So like supply chain disruptions show up in goods inflation, but then once it's a domestic demand driven story, then you've got services inflation. And the reason why that matters is because if it is just global supply shocks, stomping on demand with rate hikes isn't going to fix the problem. But now that it is domestic demand driven, then rate hikes are the medicine for that illness.
But hang on, we already took the medicine.
Yeah,
but you say we took the we took the medicine when we didn't need the medicine. But like,
the RBA was ahead of the curve on this one. I think it was always the danger that it was going to become entrenched and become domestic trend, because once prices start lifting in the economy, then they start lifting everywhere. Everyone, the whole economy responds. And so that was the danger. And so that's what they try to head that off at the pass with 400 basis points of hikes. But Michelle Bullock's saying we might need more.
We tried to get ahead of it with rate hikes, but now that didn't work, we're going to need rate hikes. Like, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me right now? The rate hikes didn't work, so now we need rate hikes?
Yeah. It's a problem when you've only got one lever to lean on.
Yeah, this is that blunt instrument we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, but why doesn't the rest of the world need rate? Like, what?
Well, the rest of the world's not dealing with the inflation that we are. Like we're out of the 15 most developed countries, we're number one for inflation.
Well, whose fault is it? Is it the RBA's or the government's?
I don't know.
I mean, Bullock thinks it's the RBA, thinks it's the government, right? And Albo's saying it's a global story.
Yeah. No, she's not saying that. It's not. I don't know if it's either of their faults. I mean, in hindsight, we probably shouldn't have put so much money into the economy. Could have done more to lean against the energy shock by cracking down on the gas cartel. Could have dialed back infrastructure spending a bit.
Well, maybe Albanese should spend less time at meetings, go and get a good night's rest, wake up with a clear head.
Yeah.
Have a think about, make some good decisions during the day. Maybe not overspending on infrastructure. All right, Thomas, Gen Z in particular, doing a lot more stealing. What's going on?
Yeah. Apparently, there was a study from a loan marketplace in America called Lending Tree, which I quite like because my son they have the Giving Tree at their school. But I think we need to can't just get free apples. They need to sit under the Lending Tree.
Apples don't just grow on trees.
Yeah.
You can borrow an apple, but you got to return 2 apples.
2 apples, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so good that we're conditioning the kids. Yeah, so Lending Tree saying that 31% of Gen Z consumers have stolen items from self-checkout kiosks.
Was that just because they only surveyed Gen Z?
No,
I'm Gen X, right? And if they surveyed my mates and me, pretty similar numbers, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, no, the rest of the population's 15%.
Ah.
So Gen Z stood out as having twice the proclivity for theft as other generations.
All right.
So 44% plan to continue stealing.
Baked in. It's part of my Christmas budget. It's like $646 on presents, but I'm going to actually give $947 of presents.
Yeah. And of those who had stolen at kiosks, only a third had said they'd ever been caught.
Oh yeah. So is this a self-serve checkout thing, phenomenon?
Well, this is what this survey is about. Yeah. So it's not talking about broader theft or looting or any other forms of larceny.
Because I often wondered if it's kind of true stealing if you're buying 5 bananas but you put through 4. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that because sometimes you just value add to the weekly shop. I always think of stealing as going into a supermarket and stuffing something down your shorts and then walking out. I just think more it's just skimming a little bit off the top.
You deserve it.
Worked hard for these bananas, man. Right. The other side of this is the cost of living crisis. Is it that Gen Z are doing it particularly tough and they feel the need?
Yeah.
Because most people don't want to steal, right? All jokes aside, most people aren't going into the supermarket to steal, but...
No, you're not doing it for fun.
No. Not since I was a pre-teen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it is true. Young people are doing it tougher. There was a new report from Combank out last week as well saying that people under 30 years old are now cutting back on essentials. So we had seen a cutback in discretionary, but people under 30 are now cutting back on essentials as well.
That's no good.
Yeah, but the correlation is kind of amazing with age and spending. So once you get out to your 65 plus, they're lifting essential spending, they're lifting discretionary spending, they're just spending on everything.
Is the stealing offset in Gen Z by the number of bags accidentally left behind by the 65 plus? Just left in shopping centre car parks, in trolleys.
No, well, they're not. No, the boomers aren't shopping, they're on cruises. Cruise spending is up 55% this year.
Oh, man.
Online travel bookings have soared 34%.
Really?
Yeah. Boomers are living it up.
Right. So what hope for young people then?
None. No, I mean, it's kind of the nature of capitalism. It eats the vulnerable, and it's just unfortunate that the young people are vulnerable.
We used to look after the vulnerable, didn't we? Like the protect women and children was like first rule of like escaping
Sinking
a
boats.
ship, sinking
Yeah.
ship. Get the vulnerable off first.
Yeah.
It was changed around. Now the vulnerable are copping it, and
Well, it's more that the vulnerable are a good cash cow for people with money. So it's, just going to keep bleeding them as much as you can, which is just the nature of the system.
right. Can we change the system?
Nope.
This is a depressing break.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's the sort of big tension in capitalism is that power accumulates and as you get wealthier, it's easier to avoid dealing with rate hikes. It doesn't touch you.
So these stories don't help then. Like I feel like we've got vulnerable people who are doing things out of desperation, and then we write articles saying these guys are all criminals, and calling them out as.
I mean, I think there's a big tension, and it's interesting. You're seeing this rise in like organized looting. It's like once you feel like the game is completely stacked against you and you have no possible way of winning, you just don't care anymore. You just go in and steal stuff. I think is kind of like, kind of the reason I don't go steal stuff is because I feel like I've got economic options to get my needs met. If I didn't, then I'd be stealing to feed my family for sure.
All right. Well, lesson there is if you need to, go and steal from self-serve checkouts.
Yeah, Thomas says it's okay. You look after you.
You do you. All right, let's take a break there on that somber note. Let's take a break here. We'll be back with more Comedian versus Economist right after this. Welcome back here on Comedian versus Economist. If you'd like to send us an email, you can do that, cve@equitymates.com or via the website equitymates.com/CVE. And today I just finished recording the 6th and final episode in the Buy or Sell series that I've been doing over on the Equity Mates Investing podcast feed. I'd love it if you went and had a listen. Love to get your thoughts. Did you like it? Hate it? CVE@equitymates.com. Let me know. Thomas, Queensland government has announced more cash for houses. What's happening?
Yeah, they've doubled the first homeowner grant.
Ooh, 2 houses.
No, just the amount of money. No, doubling it to 30,000, so up from 15,000.
No,
until
good.
30th of June 2025. Yeah, so only for new builds, has to be valued at less than 750,000, has to be your first home as well.
Okay, so this helps people buy a house.
Well, sort of. No, this is the great. No, fogs are stupid. Like they're really bad policy.
I thought we were coming up for a breath of fresh air after the last break about young people doing it tough. And now I'm thinking, oh, well, this is good. They're going to get some money to help them buy a house. And you're saying, no, this is bad.
No. Yeah, this is right. I mean, and this is the inflation story, right? And this is the insights of modern monetary theory and all that. Like when you add demand and money into a system, it doesn't create inflation unless it's a supply constrained system. So if supply doesn't have an ability to respond, then adding demand just pushes up prices. And the housing market is a classic supply constrained market. There's not enough houses to go around. We're in a massive housing shortage. Supply is really slow to respond to price incentives. And so just putting money into the system does nothing but push up prices, particularly when all first home buyers are competing with each other. You just push up the price of first homes by $30,000. So, and it's kind of this thing, like the state governments stick with it, but like there isn't an economist in the country who thinks it's a good idea. Everyone knows that pumping demand with a supply constrained market just pushes up prices. But we keep throwing money into the housing market like this. It was, 5 billion in 2021, up from 2.5 billion in 2020. So that's a lot of money, 20 billion over the past 10 years, a lot of money just to pump into the system.
So what do we do instead? What's the answer?
I reckon homeowner grants is a bad idea just in general.
No shit.
If I can be frank.
You just chewed up a minute and a half talking about why you hate them. Yeah, this just in. Breaking news. Thomas doesn't like first homeowner grants. All right.
But so they're a bad idea in general. But if you were to do them, like I want equity in home building companies. So this is money that's just going straight into the pockets of Metricon, Lendlease, etc. Like if we're going to tip in 5 billion, let's get some equity. Like let's get some upside, capture some of that profit that we're creating for these private companies.
How?
Well, rather than just giving their customers cash, get a share of the business and push down prices that way.
But who should do it? Like the government should buy a share of the business, or
rather than tipping in 5 billion in cash.
Could the government just start its own building company?
Yeah. I mean, well, you're well down the road to communism there, though, bro. Public housing. Yeah. No, we don't do that anymore.
Did we used to? I know public housing was a thing, but I presume that we paid someone to build the houses.
Yeah, I think it's probably a long time since the government actually owned a building company, if ever. I don't know. I don't actually know. Yeah, and I think there are reasonable arguments to for the private sector to do the building and not have the government do the actual building. But
I've got some friends who are having houses built at the moment, and it's just like cost blowout upon time blowout. Yeah. I think the last thing that recipe needs is the government getting involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, let's not add government to slow builds and cost blowouts. Okay, so we don't want the government building houses, but they could buy them. Is that a thing? And then
public provision of housing. Through the Howard government, like they really ramped that back and they sold off a whole bunch of public housing, and public housing as a percentage of the housing stock has never recovered. But that worked as a model for a long time. Anthony Albanese grew up in public housing.
Right. So why don't they scrap first homeowner grants? Like who's?
I think because there's no losers. Like as a political policy, people think they're winning because they're getting cash. They're seeing this cash come in. They don't realize that they're now just paying more. It's pushing up house prices, so they don't actually get any net benefit. They don't see that bigger picture. Plus, all the private builders win because their customers now have money. So everyone wins.
But it does satisfy. It does get you past the bank serviceability criteria to some extent, doesn't it? Like, because that's always the big challenge. I always used to think I earned a reasonable salary back in the day, and I was always like, if I had a deposit, I'd probably be able to get a house, but I could never save. I was terrible at saving. So if it gets you into the market, isn't that at least something that we should be happy about?
Yeah. So I mean, sort of at the margin. But you're making people compete against each other. There's this sort of thing like individually you think you're better off, but because you're competing against everyone else who's got the same leg up, you'd actually know higher up in the pecking order than you were. I mean, to the extent that it incentivizes saving and makes that getting over the deposit hurdle a little easier, maybe it's not. Yeah, maybe it's okay.
Thank you for coming around to see my side. It sounds like you're right on board now.
Yeah. Good job, Queensland.
That level of commitment, outstanding. All right, Thomas, finally on the show, the UK has just banned ads for Toyota Hiluxes. What's happening?
Yeah. So the Advertising Standards Agency, ASA, has banned 2 Toyota Hilux ads, saying that the ads condone the use of vehicles in a manner that disregarded their impact on nature and the environment. They had not been prepared with a sense of responsibility to society.
Right. So just to paint a picture for our listeners, these ads were showing something like 50 Hiluxes, and like I think it was meant to be like a bit of a stampede of elephants, or the running of the bulls, or some sort of like kind of a flock of some sort of animal, running through like rivers and outback, like a bit of a stampede of Hiluxes, and people said, no, that's no good. We can't have that. They're dissing the environment.
Yeah, well, literally trashing it. I think it was
literally
in
trashing
the images. It.
Yeah, but I saw the article, and I'm siding with Hilux on this one.
Oh, are you?
Yes, because that's what these cars are made for. They're made for off-road driving.
No, they're made for driving your kids to soccer.
No, they're not. Don't get me wrong. If you own a Mitsubishi Outlander, 2-wheel drive, like I do, that's an SUV that's made for driving the kids to soccer. That's what it's for. But Toyota Hiluxes, a bit different. They're work vehicles. Probably the government owns like 1,000 of them, that like park rangers and whoever else. Because as my mate who used to work for Holden used to say, if you want a reliable car, buy a Toyota. I think he didn't last long at Holden.
Didn't last long, don't
But either did Holden, so there's a lesson in there somewhere.
Yeah, but I think you can convey rugged, tough, high torque kind of capacities without trashing a river.
Yeah, but that's what they're for. They're for driving through a river. They're for driving through the bush. How do you do that in the city? Take them down to the local football oval. The local pump track, just a Hilux. Some middle-aged man in a Hilux just driving over kids at a pump track. Yeah, I think they've been unfairly targeted, is my view. There's tons of ads out there that's what advertising is.
It's like lying.
Well, yeah, basically.
Lying with a callous disregard for the environment. I think it probably is what advertising is.
Advertising shows you things that you could do because you think you'll be able to do them. Like people might buy a Hilux because they think they're going to go forward driving and never do it. There's plenty of other SUVs though that show pictures of people camping and they're all happy. And then we might go camping once a year, and the rest of the time I'm driving that car around the city. I buy Lynx deodorant and I'm yet to experience the Lynx effect of just people falling over themselves to come and touch me. That's what ads do. They paint the rosiest picture or the most kind of relatable picture of what you think you want. And
yeah, that's true. But they're not being done because there's a lie like that. Like it's being done because it shows cars trashing the environment, and that's the people who lodge the complaint saying we're just trashing the environment here, and we're glorifying trashing the environment to sell SUVs, which consume more fuel than regular cars.
You need to prove that they're rugged though. Remember when Elon Musk tried to prove the Cybertruck was rugged by throwing a rock at it straight through the window? See, we've tried other ways. It doesn't work.
Yeah. I love Toyota's response. But that image, it was just AI generated.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Well, they didn't actually even stage it. They just it's just all doctored up.
Yeah.
And that was their defense.
No. And the company behind it, Ad-Free Cities, they're a network of groups trying to get advertising out of public spaces, altogether.
Champions.
What is advertising without public consumption? It's just if a tree falls in the forest. If an ad is shown without anyone seeing it, who
paid for it?
Who paid for it? Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a bit of a storm in a teacup.
Yeah. I mean, not that it touches Toyota. The ads were from 2020.
All right, so they're banned. So it's 3 models ago. They're oh no more sales of the 2019 model. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
I'll let car sales know to withdraw the listings.
Yeah, so it doesn't touch Toyota. But it's an interesting standard. It's interesting that the Advertising Standards Authority has linked the environment with social responsibility, saying we have a social responsibility to the environment. That's an interesting idea.
But it's a bit ridiculous that we're banning off-road vehicles driving off-road at the same time as we're allowing gambling ads to kids.
Yeah, no. True.
We're going to talk standards. I think we've got a slightly higher priority problem to solve in gambling advertising to kids before we get Toyota off-road vehicles back on the road. Yeah. All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can send us an email or leave us a message via Facebook or Instagram at CVE Podcast. But for Comedian versus Economist for another week, that's all from us. It's bye for now.
Comedian vs. Economist is a product of Equity Mates Media. All information in this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional finance, legal, or tax advice. The hosts of Comedian V Economist are not financial professionals and are not aware of your personal financial circumstances. Before making any financial decisions, you should read the product disclosure statement and, if necessary, consult a licensed financial professional. Do not take financial advice from a podcast. For more information, head to the disclaimer page on the Equity Mates website where you can find ASIC resources and find a registered financial professional near you. In the spirit of reconciliation, Equity Mates Media and the hosts of Comedian V Economist acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today.